Welcome back to the Wirraway versus Heclapar play-by-mail campaign. It's the 17th of February, 1942. Been a couple weeks since the last video. That's primarily been to my crazy work schedule and the kids' crazy summer swim schedules. It was also quiet turns in the game where didn't have a lot of activity. But I'll show you where we are and catch you up. Bottom line is you didn't miss anything particularly exciting. Sounds like that small AP just went down, no surprise. Been redeploying forces for campaign in the Philippines, both on Mindanao and around Manila. Deploying armor to take out the last remaining Dutch on Java. Redeploying forces to and from the Aleutians and advancing in India. Mostly unopposed at this point. And we'll talk about China in a moment. So if you notice Dave's on cap here, that's because there's a cruiser task force, 3 of them actually, that sprinted into Madras and will bombard during the day phase. They, depending on how depending on how it works, they'll either bombard before one of the air phases or at the end. It's not entirely consistent. Meanwhile, we're bombing this airfield because he's stacked fighters and bombers here and been attacking our advancing recon and armor units. And so we've finally drawn him into a situation where we can strike at a mass of Allied aircraft. He'd dodged other attempts to engage his aircraft. And see, he's got these hurricane sweeping, which means it's hard for me to long range cap 5 or 6 hexes away and expect to have a lot of luck against enemy sweeps. So I haven't contested it, and now we're about to. Hasn't impacted my advance. So he has no cap over his airfield. So I have 3 Sentai of Bettys that will hit Madras. And then the cruisers will bombard. They're all sweeping from and bombing from the side-by-side bases here on Viz. Don't really expect to catch. The only aircraft that'll be on the ground at this point will be damaged aircraft because his fighters will be sweeping and his bombers will be in the air. The Oscars sweeping. airfield suppression at Bandoing. That airfield at Bandoing is currently closed for him in terms of offensive operations. So he's Blenheim's, Hudson's. Marauders. B-17Ds. The airfield at Norfolk. We don't have any aircraft at Norfolk right now. Let's see if anything interesting happens in the afternoon phase. We have Glenn's down in New Zealand. Looks like they snooped something. Here comes cruisers. And remember, when you're looking at these results, it's not 27 individual aircraft damaged. You damaged 10 aircraft 27 times. But that's a good result. Second task force of cruisers. And third task force of cruisers. So, that's unpleasant. Amateur hour. I set my invasion task forces to halt short of their objective and selected a hex that apparently has a bit of Borneo in it. So the task force is unloading there. Yes, that's unpleasant. That will cause a couple of days delay. Not critical, but shall we say, embarrassing. Okay. Deliberate attack along the Anking Road. Note he's reinforced with another decent core, actually 3 decent cores. They've been attritted in yesterday's fighting. Probably gone through a total of 9 of his cores now. So, decent results. Well, his AV will be down under 600 again. So this is just going to have to keep grinding away. Oh, they were slaughtered. This doesn't really matter because he can't exploit it. It's just a bunch of disabled squads, but look at that loss ratio. Anyway, remember that our purpose here is just to keep the pressure on, keep him from pulling divisions out of the line, and keep burning supply. He uses bombardment just to check to make sure I'm not reinforcing and looking obviously for opportunities to counterattack. It of course does burn supply, but he's happy with that trade-off. Okay, we'll speed through this a bit. And take a look. So 22 allied losses to 2. Blenheims, Hurricanes, Hudsons, Marauders destroyed on the ground. That's 20. And 1. So there's 1 more aircraft of his was destroyed. And we lost a Dyna and transport cell. Okay, that's good. Since it's been a while since you've been around, we'll take a look at where we are in terms of the overall score. Still a little less than 1. Allied aircraft losses are significantly higher. Almost 3-1 in the air. 15-1 on the field. Flak 3-1 in his favor. Operational losses in his favor. We can check the ship sunk. So AP was of modest size. You can see over the last week or so, um, we did damage or sink other ships of his. Uh, it's been mostly one-sided so far in the Indian Ocean. Let's start off in the Aleutians. So what's going on here is he made no attempt to reinforce, and essentially all the key bases in the Aleutians are now ours. And what I'm doing is pulling out elements of uh, the veteran Korean division that I bought out early in the game to lead the assaults here and replacing them with Special Naval Landing Force units and engineers to build up our defenses in times 3 and times 2 terrain. Um, we still have carriers. Uh, it's Kaga and Shoho uh, with tankers, battleships as a covering force, but he has made no attempt to interdict here. Let's look at China. So we're massing 7 divisions for the assault on Changsha. You may recall we went into Changsha early when it looked like it was lightly garrisoned. He rapidly reinforced and attempted to counterattack with significant losses. And so now we're going to push back in with essentially 3 infantry corps. So I'll have 7 divisions plus 2 or 3 more that I could add in reserve. Um, we're working, we've encircled his forces in Wu Chao, and he retreated out of Kukong. Um, we might cut these off, but he has the ability to move and reopen the Hex side. But again, this will be a good distraction to keep him from further reinforcing Changsha. On our main axis of advance, it's been a slog. The armor has just sort of been grinding his cores into dust. So he's been feeding units in as he moved them through the mountains. Uh, so this is just a grinding fight, but it's a fight the Japanese will win, uh, whether it's a week from now, 2 weeks from now, or a month from now. Uh, uh, we will essentially consume eventually all his reserves, and our losses have been almost non-existent. We're rotating. We have 4 infantry divisions. Because of stacking limits, we can only put 2 in the hex. We have 10 armored armor regiments. Rotating the infantry divisions and um, attacking a couple times a week, sometimes 3 times a week, using transport aircraft that are uh, operating, you can see, at 60% rest. So their operational losses have been pretty modest. You can check their fatigue. Uh, but because I chose to attack along the Anqing corridor instead of along the Xi'an corridor, I've got to make more aggressive use of supply aircraft typically to keep my attacks going. Um, this is a better axis of advance, but the way he had deployed his forces, uh, he had his best and still has his best corps sitting right here, and a massive available reserves at the time here. So we have been able to draw almost all his operational reserves into this grinding fight, and we have 3 more good corps that we've tied up over here. Um, 2 divisions. Is that really a 2 divisions right now are tying up 3 or 4 corps. It's only a decent trade-off, but that's what we've got. We can't pull these guys out, uh, then risk freeing up more corps. These guys have some experience now, so want to keep them pinned. That's China. So just a reminder, main axis of advance towards Anqing, secondary axis of advance, though larger in troops, but not in combat power, on Changsha, supporting attack around Wuchao, reserves here. In the Philippines, we have been finishing just about the deployment of the 20th Division and, sorry, and the 28th Division, both, uh, though it may not appear from this particular regiment, but both veteran Korean divisions. And those pieces of both those divisions had been deployed in the Aleutians early on. Now they're on their way back. This is half of one of the missing regiments. There's an engineer regiment on its way. And then we've just about finished buying out the remaining units. So we'll send those two veteran divisions, finish sending those two veteran divisions to Luzon for an attack on Manila. Right now, we're just suppressing his airfield. We've landed on Mindanao with two infantry regiments. He retreated in the mountains. And so our goal was to take Cagayan, uh, a size 4 airfield. We've done that. So that happened just a couple of days ago. So we launched our invasion on Balikpapan, which you saw, flipped this land hex here. So now I'm going to have to uh, get an amphib task force from Surabaya to go and stop the unloading here, pull these guys out, and bring in more amphibs to pick them up, and then relaunch on simultaneous attack on Balikpapan and Samarinda. It's going to delay that operation a couple of days. Critical, but sloppy. Just about finished all the dot base cleanup here. You can see there's a few down this way. Of course, I'm not taking Bola or Babo until I have enough AA guns to defend the oil there. Uh, right now, I don't. So, got a couple more bases to take here, but we're going to grab Balikpapan, Samarinda, then Tarakan, and then work our way around to Miri and Brunei and wrap up all of our oil. And the only airfield left that can threaten us are the two in Luzon, which aren't insignificant, but we continue to suppress them. Here, Bandoing, we destroyed his fighters. We're just suppressing the airfield. Right now, it's still technically airfield damage 31. It's operational for offensive operations. So we've had bad weather the last couple of days in Batavia, where Sallies are. So it's only been the Lilies and the Sonias. Some remaining risk there. Moving now finally to take Jericho, the oil here. Have to keep this airfield suppressed. Last thing I want to do is have um, some long-range American heavy bombers, uh, liberators, fly in for a day from northern Australia and hammer the oil at Palembang, which is still pretty heavily defended, or Baja, or always a risk while he has a viable airfield to work from. In the Malaya, there's elements of two divisions of his trapped at Tumalo. The Thai army is sitting on them. They just let them starve. Uh, and eventually, when the Thai units finish um, repairing all their damaged squads, they will attack just to gain combat experience. 41st Infantry Regiment is going to finish off the enemy forces at Djami. I pulled all armor here into it's landing in Batavia and reinforcing. So we'll have 4 armor regiments leading away at his combat power and bandoing. Still think a couple more weeks, maybe even a bit longer for bandoing to fall, but that's okay. These are not tying up any major forces here. Well, that's not true. 2 divisions, insignificant, but I can't rush that. So the main theater of operations have landed quite a bit more anti-aircraft guns, engineers. We're just about ready to take Magwe. There's no rush to do that. We've opened up the rail line to Tungi, so we'll build up once engineers. I've got a couple engineers just walking their way to Mulmine. We'll rail them to Tungi and start building up the airfield there, which in times 3 terrain connected by rail to Rangoon is a very valuable site. And we will take Magwe. The 3 units there are just remnants. There's no reason to do that prematurely. Just about reached Janispur, our first objective in the Calcutta campaign. Good supply source, and begins the process of the encirclement of Calcutta and eventually cutting off Imphal and all the air bases here. So only Lasho, which is just an airfield 2, only his bases in India and a few in China will be able to threaten the oil at Magwe. So don't want to take Magwe prematurely until you can make sure the risk of him trying to mass bombers to hit it on any significant level is small. Our our other effort in India to take Madras. Our armor and recon units are just on the outskirts of Madras. He's been hammering them for the last week from the air, which is fine. The actual 3 divisions that are moving on Madras, he hasn't bombed once. And now we've wrecked the airfield here, and much of his aircraft combat power was at Madras. He has some B-17s here, and that was about it. He massed his available air force in Madras, and we've either destroyed it or damaged it. So now we've got free hand for a week or 2 until he'll rail these out. I looked at whether I could trap them in there, but wasn't really a option. So just damage and destroy as many as I could. He's going to rail them out. I assume they'll go to Bombay. They might go to Hyderabad. They might even go all the way around to Calcutta. We'll see. But the time they arrive, are repaired. Um, yeah, Madras should have already fallen, uh, and will just about be on the outskirts of Calcutta. We built up these 2 airfields to level 3s, or nearly level 3. So we've been able to conduct combat operations successfully here. And we'll need to get our cruisers out. Reinforcements are continuing to flow from Rangoon and Singapore through the Bay of Bengal. He has not made any serious attempts to interdict them. Still has some shipping here. It's trapped. Um, might go after that in a couple turns. There's no desperate reason to. He has some shipping at Bombay, but nothing looks particularly valuable. Our submarines have been pretty effective interdicting some shipping in and out of Karachi. Let's jump down to New Caledonia. Let's check and see. So this SNLF is still in fine shape. We've now have long range float plane recon, and we've got our first family Deti, so we'll drop them into Nouméa and watch what's going on in Auckland. Not much sign of any buildup yet. Only sign of buildup has been at Pago. Still expect his initial counterattacks to occur potentially in the Gilberts. Um, in the New Hebrides, New Caledonia, and the Aleutians, but so far no sign of it. So we're building up our defenses, looking for opportunities to strike him, and we have now the 48th Division fully reassembled as the theater reserve for the Solomons and Fourth Fleet area of operations. Continuing to harden our bases at Marcus and Wake. Still don't have the coastal guns at Wake. They don't arrive for about another month. And sorry, let's take a look at where we are in terms of engines. Achi's 60s, just about to advance. The key Nakajima HA45. We have 5 factories researching. It's advanced a couple times and will again relatively soon. Kawasaki HA60. The only inline water-cooled engine the Japanese make during the war. No real rush to get that out the door, but it's coming along. Let's take a look at aircraft. Building 100 zeros. Got an okay Cape pool, so right now I'm not building any. Valves have been pretty thin because I have 3 new Sentai of valves to flesh out. Had to expand my Jake production significantly. Glens are fine. I'm going to keep building Glens until I run out of engines for them, and then switch to something else. So, because the Glens don't upgrade to anything else, so I'm just going to build out the full number I can. I'm not going to dedicate, and I'm not going to build any additional new engines. Just use the ones that were off the shelf. Oscars, I've just about converted everything I can to the Oscar 1C. So a decent, modest pool. Eventually, I'll shut that line down. Some losses have been so light. And the 1C isn't worth building in huge numbers. A6M5 research is going. Roofs are just about repaired, and then these 3 factories will switch over to the A6M5. SAMs, little progress in the SAMs. It's typical with this far out. It's actually decent with this far out. Graces, little progress. Beauties, they're closer, quite a bit closer. So more progress. Irvings, moving along okay. Gotta have those every night fighter you can get. Jack, little progress on the Jack. Randy's are way out. It's only very little progress. But again, you need the night fighters. Oscar 2A is coming along. Hojo's coming along. Nick, the night fighter version. Not a lot of progress. As soon as this Helen 1A is finished repairing, I'll flip it over to the 2A. Tony's, again, no real rush on the Tonys. They're decent aircraft, not, they're a maintenance nightmare. And it's a challenge for the Japanese. Peggy's, and then, of course, the main investment in the Franks. Okay. Well, I apologize that it took so long to get this video out, uh, but I will keep at it, and the campaign is going along well. It's reached a little bit of a quieter phase at the moment because of the scale of the amount of land I have to cover in India and the grinding attrition in China because Heclapar is very competent at the ground combat side. He defends some good terrain, and there aren't a lot of cheap, easy victories. Look forward to our next chance talk.